Losing $5 is enough to make a grown man cry, but what would happen if you lost out on billions or even worse, trillions of dollars? It is a feeling that I imagine Laszlo feels after he paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 large pizzas. It would be so hard to sleep at night knowing if you had have done the opposite of what you did, your life could be a series of fancy yachts, Lambos, and straight up Wall Street bets clout. In the wild west of business, there have been many flops and what could have beens, but today we are looking at 5 of the worst investments of all time. But we need to start off with a man who cashed out his 10% stake in one of the most influential businesses in the world today for only $800. When Apple first started, Ronald Wayne owned 10% of the company. He obviously had paper hands and didn't see the potential in this company when it was first getting started and decided to sell his 10% stake. If he had have held onto this 10%, today with Apple being valued at nearly $2.3 trillion, a 10% stake would put you in the category of the world's richest and a casual $230 billion net worth.
Nice.
Ronald Wayne, however, made one of the biggest degen moves of all time and decided to sell his 10% stake back to the original founders, Steve Wozniak and of course Steve Jobs. At the time, he probably thought he was lucky by selling out of his position for a profit and without having to worry about the debt that Apple would eventually take on, so he was probably sitting at home with $800 thinking that it was one of the best choices he ever made. But obviously, after realizing that his $800 could have been worth over $230 billion, I think this is an investment no one else could have made, and by far one of the worst investments of all time. I don't even think the legendary Warren Buffett could get a return of $800 into $230 billion, so I really hope Ronald Wayne is okay. Another person, well, I guess a company in this case, that lost a bit more than a $50 bet on a sports game was 20th Century Fox. And I think the worst part about this is that for the time, this is probably the decision that made complete sense, and definitely what the majority of people would have done if they were presented with the same offer. To understand this deal properly, we have to go back to the time of the 1980s when Star Wars was first getting started, and George Lucas, after receiving a whopping 300% pay rise after the first Star Wars movie from Fox, went on to actually renegotiate a pay cut for his very own salary. Yes, he wanted a pay cut after being put on $500,000 a year. This is a salary that us degens could only hope for, but for some reason George Lucas wanted a pay cut. He negotiated a pay cut with Fox to go back down to his original rate of $150,000 a year, which is still really good, but what he ended up negotiating for is that he would get all of the merchandising rights to not only the current Star Wars movies that he was working on, but also all of the sequels involved with the movie. Star Wars is now one of the most profitable movie franchises of all time, and that $350,000 pay cut that George Lucas ended up taking over the last 50 years has turned into a net worth of well over $5 billion. So depending on how you look at this is a very bad investment from 20th Century Fox, but also a very good investment from George Lucas. Now, owning 10% of Apple or even all the rights to Star Wars is something made of dreams, but how about turning down an offer to buy and own 100% of Microsoft for only $50 million? Now, $50 million is still a lot of money, but back in 1979, when Microsoft was first getting started, Microsoft and Bill Gates ended up going to Ross Perot and offering to sell the entire Microsoft company to him for a quiet $50 million. Ross Perot, however, didn't see the value in the company. He instead tried to lowball Bill Gates' offer at the time, and that was declined. If you guys don't know what Microsoft is currently valued at, it has a market cap of roughly $2 trillion, making it one of the most highly valued companies in the world today. So yeah, probably worth buying for $50 million. I feel like this was a little bit of a blessing in disguise though, as some of us would have never experienced the thrills of those Microsoft Windows minigames if Ross Perot had have bought out the business. Another $1 trillion opportunity spilled through the hands of George Bell. The CEO of Excite was offered Google for reportedly somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 and a 1% stake in George Bell's company. Even though this does sound quite enticing, Bell ended up declining this offer because the founders of Google at the time insisted that the existing Excite tech should be replaced with Google's. Bell declined backing with what he had built at Excite, and now if you fast forward to today, Google and their parent company Alphabet sit at roughly a $1.3 trillion market cap, and well, Excite, I hadn't even heard of this company before researching for this video. I'm sure George Bell would have loved to reconsider this if he had have known what the future had in store.
Congratulations! Congratulations on your epic fail.
Around the same time that Bell was declining an offer to acquire Google, Blockbuster was sitting at the table laughing at an offer by Netflix for $50 million. Back then, Netflix was delivering DVDs through the mail, and I'm sure Blockbuster thought that this was the worst business idea ever, when especially they were flourishing at the time renting and selling DVDs. Blockbuster had an offer on the table from Netflix saying that they could buy out their company for $50 million, but Blockbuster ended up declining this not only once, but a few times. Not only because they didn't think the business model of Netflix would last, but also because Netflix were bad in the red. Obviously, after being laughed out of the Blockbuster office, I'm sure the co-founders of Netflix really had no idea what to do next. Little did they know that they were going to be the ones to dethrone Blockbuster and become the leader in streaming not only TV shows but movies, and now even producing their own content. They started their very own subscription service, and now with the boom of the internet, Netflix is by far one of the most valuable companies on Wall Street, and I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. Netflix is currently valued at $160 billion, which is insane, and as for Blockbuster, well, we know how that turned out. I guess Netflix really did have the last laugh. So if you're ever kicking yourself for selling a share too early, or maybe buying into the next meme coin with a few dollars that ends up going to zero, just remember that there are people and businesses out there that have lost out on trillions of dollars from one small decision. But like them, all you can do is keep your head high and learn from the mistakes. There you guys go. That is our video talking about the 5 worst investment mistakes of all time. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you are new, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.